Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the info session. Great to have quite a long list of interested partners on board today. I'm happy to give a short overview of JPI Urban Europe, as we don't know if many of you are familiar with the program and the settings of that. Clara, you want me to continue? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So JPI Urban Europe is a transnational program. That means that it's member states financed. So every organization from one of the funding partners in this call is eligible to join. And we are running this program for 10 years now, setting up research and innovation calls and accompanying measures to support sustainable urban development from different points of views. So if we continue with the next one, giving a bit of a glimpse of what we did and our kind of track records and facts and figures. So we are focusing on urban transition with a very integrated approach. And so far we have 20 European countries participating in different ways. So not all of these countries are cooperating in this particular call. So you really need to have a look at the call text and all the information from the supporting agencies. We have spent by now about 100 million euro of national investment. Some of the calls have been implemented in cooperation with the European Commission. And in principle, we are running a call a year. At this point in time, we are running 2 calls, actually. So one of them is addressing urban migration. And we have by now supported, funded more than 80 projects from very different kinds of projects. Some of more strategic research projects, some are very much innovation oriented. The thematic scope is covering different aspects from more energy and mobility related issues up to project on food, water, energy nexus, addressing urban governance issues, public sector innovation. But all of these projects aim to build upon local cases and bring together not only different researchers from various countries, but the whole spectrum of urban stakeholders that are needed to create an impact in urban areas. And this is something that we also put and request more or less from the project under this call, that this is not an exchange or a cooperation of researchers from different disciplines and from different cities and countries, but we want you to team up with urban administration, with municipalities, with business, civil society organization to create solutions, to discuss different research results, different experiences, and take those research results forward towards implementation. And yeah, we're doing that also in some cases on international level, but this time it's a European call, and the focus is on urban migration, as I think Hannah will explain in a minute in more detail. So in all, when you're interested in applying for a project under this scheme, we will be happy to also welcome you to our projects family. I think this is something that I really would like to emphasize, because the projects that we're funding are not only receiving the financial means to carry them out, but we want you to be part of a community. We want you to come back to us as the program management with your results, with your issues, with your experiences. If you continue with the next slide, please. We are inviting you to be part of a wider community, which means that we invite you to various events and workshops. We do facilitate a wider exchange with various stakeholders, city representatives, societal organizations, representatives from various projects and facilitate an exchange and a discussion with that. So you will be definitely part of that. And I think there is on one of the slides an image demonstrating the cooperation that we have and the events that we are running. Clara, if you can move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So this is just one of our project meetings. Now we have inviting representatives from calls, across the calls, to exchange on experiences, to discuss that with representatives from cities and other stakeholders. So this we are running workshops, we are running consultations in different ways. So this is also an invitation. If you will be funded at the end of the day, you will be part of a bigger community, and sort of we expect you to contribute to that, to share your experiences, to discuss the results, and allow a wider set of stakeholders to benefit from this. Maybe one indication of how we, yeah, that's okay. All right. Now we expect you also to look into different ways how you can do that. And you might have come across that, maybe you're into that matter anyway. Some of our projects are very much into formats and instruments related to urban living labs, which means these are projects that are supporting and creating knowledge about how to facilitate this multi-stakeholder involvement, how to work on local cases, connecting science policy cooperation, facilitating this exchange across the various stakeholder groups. So maybe an indication, there is material available for you if you're not familiar yet with those developments. How can you support city administration in experimenting? How can you cooperate research, policy, other actors on a local case in a research project context? So there are some indications from the smarter labs. The UrbanX project created a lab kit. This is like using a gaming context to answer very essential questions if you want to work with the local community and the public authorities. The GUST has a guideline set up. So these kind of projects, building upon a local case, bringing together all the experts and the communities, the stakeholders needed to address a particular question. There are some guidelines available from previous projects, and we very much encourage you to have a look at that and build upon those cases, use these experiences, and make sure that we have a project portfolio also for the urban migration context that takes the experiences further and that helps to bring your results that you might have gained in previous projects towards a wider community, to test them, to validate them, and co-design new solutions in a wider sense. Yeah, so that's my intro from the basic indication of what Urban Europe is aiming at. I don't know if there are any particular question on this. Otherwise, I think Hannah will continue with the introduction to the call itself.
Yes, hello everybody. Thanks a lot for the introduction. I think Clara should provide me now with the role of a moderator so that I can share my screen with you. Yeah, I'm now the host. Okay, so I will start now with my presentation of the urban migration call. So my name is Hanna Scheck, and I'm coordinating together with Ann Rodenstedt from Formers in Sweden this call. Yes, so first of all, I want to provide provide you with a brief overview of the call. It was established by the JPI Urban Europe. It was opened in December last year, and we are applying a two-steps procedure with a pre-proposal deadline on 26th of March and a full proposal deadline on 4th of September. And we have in total, so all countries together have about 2 million euro. And the participating countries are Austria, Germany, Latvia, Sweden, and UK. So, what is the call about? The focus.
Hello, Hannah.
Yeah.
Yes, the sound is not very good, so we think that...
Should it be louder?
No, I think you need to, when you share,
Yeah.
when you decide to share your screen, you have to also tick share computer sound.
Okay.
So if you stop sharing and then you share again.
Okay. So
Okay.
I stop now sharing.
Yeah.
And how should I do that now?
You go to share.
I go to share.
What you did before. And then there should be at the bottom of that square that pops up.
Yeah.
You can tick share computer sound.
Okay, super, thanks.
And then we go again.
And sorry for the
No worries.
sound. So maybe should I start again or?
Yes.
Okay, then I will start again. By the live and yes, so first of all, I want to provide you with a brief overview of the call. It was established by the JPI Urban Europe. It was opened in December last year, and we are applying a two-steps procedure with a pre-proposal deadline on 26th of March and a full proposal deadline on 4th of September. And we have in total, so all countries together have about 2 million euro. And the participating countries are Austria, Germany, Latvia, Sweden, and UK. So, what is the call about? The focus is on the way that migration affects and is affected by the life and functioning of cities. And we are aiming at having all groups, all relevant groups dealing with migration involved. This means that in the transnational consortia, there should be municipalities involved, businesses, researchers, civil society, and other stakeholders. And here, of course, it is important that you are checking what can be funded by your funding agency, because not all groups can be funded by every funding agency involved in this call. And what is also very specific in this call is that projects should build up on already existing research. So it's not about completely new research, and the knowledge could be acquired from, for instance, ongoing or already completed research and innovation projects, networks, so for example NGO networks or other kind of initiatives. So here we are very flexible what kind of base could be used there. And the proposals should be submitted to this call with a focus on one, many, or a mix of migration types categorized based on the following three principles. So this would be, first of all, by political boundaries. It could be internal versus international migration. By movement patterns, it could be step, circular, or chain migration, or by taking a decision-making approach. So it could be voluntary versus involuntary migration. And the duration of the projects should be maximum 1.5 years. To facilitate your participation in the call, what can we provide in terms of matchmaking and webinars? The webinar, this one, so which we are having now, will be recorded and it will be available online. And for the matchmaking, we have a LinkedIn group. So I suppose all of you or most of you have LinkedIn. So it's quite convenient when you have it to join this group, because you just need to go to the link and then you can see who is already in the group and you can easily use it for your partner search. Who can participate in the call? The partners must come from Austria, Germany, Latvia, Sweden or UK, and then they can get funding. And applicants from other countries may participate, but they cannot get funding by the call, so they have to be self-funded partners. And it's also very important to keep in mind that all partners in this call will be funded by their national funding agencies in accordance with their respective eligibility rules. So therefore, it's very important that you check the national annexes of the call text, where you can see in detail which eligibility rules are applied, to make really sure that there are no problems there. And what is the requirement concerning the consortium? Each project proposal must be submitted by a consortium consisting of at least 3 eligible applicants from at least 3 participating countries. And what we also want to have, what is very important, to reach a good impact of the projects, is that each proposal must have at least one relevant non-academic stakeholder or problem owner or practitioner as a partner or a self-funded partner. So for instance, cities, municipalities or public authorities. And as we know that this is tricky and not everybody can participate as a partner, also because not all funding agencies are offering funding for those kind of groups, we accept also letters of intent where concrete commitments are stated how the groups are involved in the project and how they would deal with the results then. Who can apply for the call? The applicants can come from organizations such as universities, research organizations, cities, municipalities, public authorities, business, citizen representatives, NGOs, community representatives, and organizations, and not single persons. So that's also important to mention, that single persons are not allowed to apply. And there has to be an organization, institution, or a natural person of a lead organization who is then the project coordinator, depending on the specific eligibility rules, because that's different. Which funding agencies can fund what kind of organization, and not all can be a project coordinator. And you also have to have 2 further partners, as mentioned already, in the project. And we are applying a 2-step procedure for the call. This means that in the first stage, consortia are invited to submit pre-proposals with a description of consortium members, concise project descriptions of no more than 10 pages, and a budget indication with limited detail according to the national requirements. Deadline for the pre-proposals is the 26th of March. The eligible pre-proposals will be assessed by an expert panel composed of international experts and a chair. And the expert panel will assess the pre-proposals using the evaluation criteria described in the call text in section 7. So here you can find them. And based on the evaluation of the selection, a selection of approximately 40 pre-proposals will be made. And the successful consortia will be then invited to elaborate their ideas to full proposals, and they have to be submitted until 4th of September. And the eligible full proposals will be submitted again to an evaluation panel, so there will be a second one. And based on the scientific ranking by the expert panel, and also taking into account the available national budgets, the participating funding agencies of the call will take a funding decision. And then you know if you were successful or not. Okay, what are our 3 call topics? They are social, spatial integration and citizen involvement, urban governance and housing issues, and enhancing cities' administrative capacities and supporting evidence-based integration policies. So managing migration. Topic 1 is social, spatial integration and citizen involvement. And there is a need for new knowledge on measures and strategies that can promote social integration and increase citizen involvement and participation among populations. And there is also a need for more knowledge based on comparisons between different spatial levels and types of cities. Topic 1, if you choose this, you can see here a list of subtopics where you have to deal at least with one of them. I will not go through all of them because you can of course read them in the call text, but just to give you some examples. So it could be about strategies and the requirements for citizen involvement and empowerment at city level. It could be about the role of urban social participation, so the concept right to the city for newly arrived people. Or, for example, it could also deal with education, so the role of education for sustainable development in integrating migrants. Topic 2 is about urban governance and housing issues. And to be able to manage migration and assist to long-term integration of migrants, cities need to adapt solid housing practices and measures. So that's the background of topic 2. Here again I want to mention some of the topics which should be addressed. Adequate responses to urgent housing needs due to unforeseen increases in population and the promotion of social integration in such cases. Or it could be increased demand for dwellings in already pressured housing markets. And there are further topics where I want to ask you to read them in the call text. We are coming now to topic 3. There are many initiatives, policies and actions that have been undertaken to support integration processes in European urban areas, but there are still difficulties in sharing information, results, knowledge and experience of such initiatives to inform the evidence-based policy making in Europe. And furthermore, there is also not sufficient tools for evidence-based integration and cross-country comparability of integration indicators in urban areas. So this is the background of topic 3. 2 examples of topic 3, so what could be done within topic 3. The first is analyzing the determining factors for open and inclusive societies and how they contribute to social integration and sustainable development. Or another one could, for example, be providing cross-country comparability of quantitative and qualitative data relevant for urban areas. Which kind of projects do we want? As I mentioned already, it is very important that the projects are not about completely new research. They should build upon already existing knowledge on migration, and this knowledge can come from, for instance, ongoing already completed research projects, innovation projects, networks from NGOs, for example, or other kind of initiatives. Of course, the projects should also contribute to a sustainable urban development. They should have a transdisciplinary collaboration with active cooperation between the stakeholders throughout the project. So it's also obligatory to involve these kind of stakeholders, as I mentioned already. Also, gender and diversity aspects have to be respected. And they should show the added value of European cooperation. And last but not least, I want to give you an overview of the participating project partners and the call budgets. So it's Austria participating with FFG and a total available budget of 300,000 euro, Germany with DLR and 800,000 euro, Latvia with IZM and 100,000 euro, Sweden with FORMAS and 400,000 euro, UK with AHRC and approximately 170,000 euro, and again UK with ESRC and approximately 300,000 euro. And in this table you can also see what can be funded by which funding agency. So for example, Austria can fund all kinds of organizations like universities, research organizations, municipality, business, And Latvia, for example, can only fund universities and research organizations. So it's important to check that before you set up your consortium, and also to check which partner organizations are eligible as lead applicants. If you want to follow our call, you can access the webpage of the JPI Urban Europe. So there is for every specific call of the JPI a subpage, and here all the updates are published. But of course, if you have questions, you can also contact the call secretariat or your national contact points. They are also listed on the webpage, and you can also ask now questions. So please feel free and ask your questions, and I will also, of course, refer to the questions which you sent before and which are in the chat. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, great. Clara, how should we proceed now?
So we have a few questions in the chat, and I will read them to you and you can answer them, Hannah.
Yes. Yes.
So we first have, can an NGO be the relevant non-academic stakeholder?
Yes, of course. But there needs to be an explanation why it is the stakeholder. So what the NGO is doing then with the results. So that's the important question.
Okay. And the next question is, can international NGOs not bound to any state apply for the call, or can they play a supporting role in the project?
Yes, of course. I think that's of course also great to have this kind of transnational organizations, but you have to be careful then to reach apart from this organization the minimum criteria of the consortium, because if you have a transnational organization, it doesn't count as a national. So you need to make sure that you have to that you have 3 partners from 3 different countries in the call, involved in the call participants. And the transnational organization or network can be an additional partner, but it doesn't count as one of the 3.
Okay, and another question related to NGOs. Can an NGO be a lead partner?
It depends. So I would refer to the table I have shown you, because in Austria, for example, it could be a lead partner, but there are other funding agencies where this is not possible. So, but I would recommend, if you're planning to involve an NGO as a lead partner, to make sure that it's really eligible, contact your national contact point.
Next question, how high can a project budget roughly be? Is every partner of the consortium funded by the national agency?
This was not in my presentation, but you can find it in the call text. There is a table where you can see the budget limits for each partner. So for Austria, it would be, for example, if Austrian participants are in one consortium, they can claim maximum 50,000 euro per project. And the same is true also for other funding agencies. So they also have limits, and putting together these limits is the maximum budget you can get for one project.
Great. Next questions. Do partners have to come from different countries? If so, can each partner in different country get fund? If 2 partners, for instance, come from one country, can they both get funds?
Yes. Yes, partners have to come from different countries. So you have to involve from 3 countries participating in the call, 3 organizations to fulfill the minimum criteria of the consortium. And there can also be more partners from one country, but then it just counts as one. So if you want to have 2 partners from Germany, for example, you still need 2 other partners from Sweden or from Latvia. So you need really you need to have 3 countries involved minimum.
And a related question, can more than one academic institution from each country participate in the call?
Yes, of course.
And would you need a problem holder for each national context, or could it be only one for the full consortia?
No, it could be only one. So it's counted per consortium, not per national partner.
What were key successes of some of the already applied projects? It was useful to see some sample projects presented today, for example, Smarter Labs, but appreciate if you could tell us more on how and why you felt they were innovative and they created an impact on communities.
Yeah, I think that's a bit difficult to say at the evaluation stage. And this call is also different because in other projects that JPI is doing, the research is one of the basic parts. So it's really about new research, and here in this call it's about building up on already research done. So I think the key for success in this call is to check how you really can create impact. So with results you have already, how you can align that with other countries, with other organizations, how you can transfer the results, how you can bring them to your target group. So that's I think the key questions of this call. How you can maximize the impact of something what is already there.
Yes, and I can also just advise you to go to our website where we have a projects database and catalogs with already finished projects where we talk about their impact in different contexts than this one, but if you want to see more examples. And next question, is subcontracting an eligible cost category?
Yeah, but that depends also on the national eligibility rules. When you open the call text, at the end of the call text there are these national annexes where you can see all the specific information about the cost categories, what can be funded, what can not be funded. And here you also can see if subcontracting is eligible. But if you have any doubts also here, I would recommend to get in contact with your national contact point to check that.
And maybe this question then relates to that, if staff costs also can be applied for in the call.
Yes, of course, they can be.
So another question here, how many joint meetings are planned within the course of the project? Where will they take place and how many days will they go on?
I'm not sure if the question is referring to the to what we are planning from the side of the JPI, because it's mentioned in the call text that we want to have one joint kickoff meeting. But in the projects, it's depending, of course, on how the projects are set up and which aims you have. So you have to see how many meetings you need. And I just saw a comment to the question about subcontracting from my colleague Uldis from Latvia. He mentioned that it's limited, but that's what I mentioned. So you have to check with your different funding agencies what is possible and where the limits are.
And a question about the key to success. Something that's already there, but does it need this does not need to be the only academic research, right? It could also be coming from an already established network, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It could be also from an established network. It could be also that you have a network and you want to extend something, you want to include more countries or whatever. So it's really, yeah, we wanted to keep that very open. So it's important that you show that something is already there and you're working with that, but what exactly it is, so it's a lot up to your fantasy what you want to use in terms of already existing research networks, everything what could be there already.
Yes, and what is, this is concerning funding criteria. What is the focus on the call? Exchange of research results within this 1.5 years, or the development of a long-term exchange of information, such as a platform?
That's also depending on the project aims. So that could be very diverse what you are doing. Yeah, I think you have to use your fantasy, what you want, in which direction you want to go. So as I mentioned already, you can, for example, extend existing networks. You can organize together workshops, conferences, whatever. So it's really a huge variety of activities you can do within this call.
Next questions. If applying from the UK, can we nominate both of the UK funders, or must we choose between either ESRC or AHRC?
I'm not really sure about the question. I heard the question already, but I don't know exactly the answer. I think you have to choose one. I think you can't get funding from both of them. But please go back to your contact points from AHRC and ESRC and check that.
And I can also mention that we will gather these questions into a Q&A document that will be available on the website for those answers that we don't have now, if you want to read them again. Next question. If the lead partner has practical and existing experience in the proposal area, do the consortium partners need to also have similar experience or past projects in the same area?
No, that's not obligatory. So it partners with a diverse set of experience can meet and exchange. And I think that's also the sense of such collaboration, that you are working together with people who don't have exactly the same experience, because you want to learn from each other and network.
And can the budget be pooled to pay for one RA across the project countries?
Sorry, I didn't get this question.
Can the budget be pooled to pay for one RA across the project countries?
To pay for one A?
One RA.
RA. Research? I'm not sure about this question. Maybe it could be specified more.
Yes, the question comes from Nassar Mir. So if you want to rewrite your question in the chat, that would be very helpful.
So RA is not clear for me what it means.
Not me either.
Maybe it's about the question of subcontracting, if you can subcontract another organization from diverse sources. But again, I have to refer to this eligibility of costs, so that has to be checked with the different funding agencies.
Great. The next question is if there will be a matchmaking webinar, a partner matching webinar.
No, there will be not a matchmaking webinar, but there is this LinkedIn group where you can click on the link, and Clara can give you access then to the LinkedIn group.
Yes, it's on the website on the call page. Easy findable on our website, where you can join and type your areas of research, what you're looking for in a partner, what you're interested in. But those are the alternatives for matchmaking in this call. In the UK, the funding is limited to strategic and applied research activities, no innovative actions. How does this impact the potential role of a UK partner in a consortium?
Yeah, this means that you have to define the roles of your organization, of your UK organization, according to these funding limitations. And it means that the part more related to innovation has then to be carried out by other consortium members. That it's important to check which kind of activities can be funded or project types can be funded, and then plan the roles accordingly in your project.
And the next question, for the first stage proposals, is it already necessary to submit at least 3 separate applications with the respective funding agencies, or is one from the lead organization sufficient?
It must be one application. And it's not, also for the second stage, it's not obligatory for all funding agencies that you submit a national and a transnational part. This again is depending on the rules you can find in the annex of the call text. So for Austria, it would be obligatory. So you have then to submit a transnational part and also a national part. But for other organizations, it's not obligatory.
What are the funding guidelines rates for issues such as travel costs, overhead costs, and so on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here again, I have to refer to the national annex. It's an annex, but I think it's really in the center of the call. So where you can find the core of all these rules, how you have to cooperate and which costs are eligible. So all that is mentioned in the annex. So you have to go. So you have to go to the page of your country, and there you can see the costs and also the different rates. So the cost categories in different rates. And for example, I'm always going back to the Austrian example because I'm contact point for Austria. In Austria, we have then a further source where it has to be checked. What's, for example, with the funding rates.
And now we have an explanation to RA, which relates to research associate. And we get the question again, and it says, it meant research assistant. It was asking if one research assistant based in one country could be funded work across the project, but be salaried by pots of money from each country.
Yeah, then that's what I mentioned already. That's referring to subcontracting, because this means that if you want to have carried out a task by another organization which is not directly paid by the call, you have to check if the subcontracting is possible. And of course, if it is possible, it's also possible that more partners from one consortium put together money for funding an additional expert.
Yes, and what are the expected outputs of the international collaboration?
That's also very difficult to say in general, because it's really depending on what you want to do in your project, what the aim of your project is. And related to these aims, you have to define what the output should be. But as I mentioned already, these projects should really focus on creating impact. So it's not on output should be new results on something, but it should be rather on checking how results can be implemented, because a lot of research is already there. It just needs to be aligned and implemented. So this is really the focus of the call.
If no deal is agreed upon between the UK and EU concerning Horizon 2020 before the end of 2020, will this affect the call at all?
No, because this call is a self-funded call. This means that it's just funded by the participating funding agencies, and there is no EU budget involved. So we are not concerned by the Brexit.
Great, that was all the questions we had so far. So if you have any additional questions, please write them in the chat or the Q&A. We will also leave the webinar open for questions after the presentation and Q&A session is over, if you come up with new questions. That we will answer in the chat then, as we will not be here for the presentations anymore.
Yeah.
But if there are no additional questions, and if you don't have anything to add, Hannah?
No.
Or here we get one more question, actually.
Yeah.
Can you please explain further what a problem holder is?
Yeah, it could be, for example, a municipality dealing with migration. So all groups affected by, for example, problems with migration, they are this kind of problem owners.
And we received another one. Can partners from other EU countries participate in a proposal with own funding?
Yes, that would refer to this concept of self-funded partners, and that's definitely possible. But they can just participate as additional partner, and they don't count as one of the three partners necessary for the consortium. So it must be a fourth or fifth partner.
And a follow-up questions for the problem holder. Can there be more than one problem holder in a consortium?
Yes, of course. That's definitely possible. So there's no limitation about that. It's just a minimum criterion.
Okay then, so must each country have a problem holder?
No, that's not necessary, but you have to have one per project.
And here's one. Do the three main partners have to be academics?
No, that's also not necessary. As I mentioned, as I have shown in the table with the countries and the budget, there you could see what can be funded, and it was mentioned that it could be research organization, businesses, NGOs. So all these kind of groups you can all these kind of groups you can have partners.
Could you explain again about the amount of funding? Is it that partners from 3 different countries get together only the maximum amount of the funding agency from the lead partner, or do they get funding from their respective agencies?
They get it from their respective agencies. If you have a partner from Sweden, the partner will get the money from 4 months from Sweden, and then you have to check what is the maximum amount you can get per project from Sweden. And then you have to, if you have a further partner from Germany, this German partner will get the money from Germany, from DLR. And also this partner has to check what the maximum amount is. So that's how it works with the consortium building, and putting all these maximum budgets together, you have the maximum budget you could get for the whole project.
Thank you very much. And those were the questions for now. But as I just said, we will still be here in the chat to answer your questions, and we will gather them in a Q&A document that will be available on the website.
Yeah.
Which is jpiurbaneurope.eu/urban migration, where you can find the LinkedIn group, a presentation about the call, a recording of the call, and a Q&A document later this week. So we get one more question here.
Yeah.
Does the main applicant have to be based in one of the countries participating in the call?
That's also depending on the funding agencies, how they are handling that. But in Austria, for example, you have to have a legal status in Austria for being considered as an Austrian partner. It could be, but it could be different in other countries. And I would recommend to check that with your national contact point.
Great. So if we don't receive any more questions, I want to thank you all for participating in this webinar, and Hannah for having the presentation.
Thanks also from my side for participating, and also to Clara for moderating.
Yes, so then we will stay here in the chat, but please keep yourself muted, as it will be a lot of noise otherwise. And just send in your questions here. If you come up with questions afterwards, the contact details to the call secretariat are on the call page, where you can just contact us at any time. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.